Yo, what's up, guys? Desmond Dixon here, and I'm going to really break down a quick video on the cost of living in Brazil. This is going to be based upon two people, right? Because even if you're single, I'm assuming you're probably still going to be dating, and there's going to be different ranges of budgets depending on your current situation. But for reference, this is for two people, for a couple, or if you're single that actively dates. All right. So let's just jump right in. And so the big thing for sure are going to be your rent. Okay, it doesn't matter where you live in the world, your rent is going to be your biggest budget. For travelers, it's going to be rent plus plane ticket. And that's a whole nother situation. And that's going to be usually between $300 and $900 for a one-way ticket here and probably a one-way ticket out. So that's just a separate expense. You can calculate that based upon your route or where you're coming from. Okay, but let me start off with the rent. All right, so cheap side of rent, depending on where you are in Brazil, is I would expect to spend between $390 and $680. Now, you're not going to get a great place. You're going to be living in a studio apartment somewhere, maybe in a decent neighborhood. But I mean, this is borderline the hood. Okay, guys, like this is Latin America. It's not like Asia where you can just get like a studio apartment in a really big building and be cool. This is going to be really hard. Now, in Sao Paulo, you can find little studio apartments, in certain areas, but in Rio, it's going to be very, very hard unless you're living in Copa in one of the really, really old buildings, and it's not going to be comfortable, guys. All right. Now, you can live in a two-bedroom place, let's say in a tier B city, outskirts, something like that. Maybe in the Northeast, you can get away with this kind of stuff, but this is if you're super cheap, guys. Hostel living kind of situation, you can pay this. Now, if you have a big budget, right, a decent budget, that's going to be pretty much between $1,000 and $1,800. You can live somewhere comfortable, right? Almost anywhere in Brazil with that amount of money. So Sao Paulo, you can get a decent place. In Rio, you can get a decent place. Tier B cities, you get in a really, really nice place. And I'm going to put in context that this is only for long-term rent. Okay, once again, like this isn't like Airbnb prices. This is like you're getting a discount to sign a contract, pay a deposit to a certain degree, and live somewhere long term. So if you want to do this for Airbnb, I would just say add a 50% adder to this, right? So besides $1,000, it's going to be $1,500 to get a decent place. On the cheap end, the upper end is going to be closer to $1,000 for a cheap rent, particularly in like Rio and Sao Paulo, things like that. So this is only for long-term rental, guys. You're going to be expected to be spending between $1,000 and $1,800 if you want to stay in a really legit place with all the amenities, furnishing it up, nice location, maybe a good view, not living in a shoebox. All right. Now, food is going to be your second biggest expense, and believe it or not, groceries here are pretty cheap, relatively speaking, compared to the West, and it's actually more fresh if you go to the right stores. Dining out is not that cheap, to be quite real. Low end, you're going to be spending around $300 a month. High end, if you're like barely cooking, really, you're going to be spending closer to $1,000. In the middle, you're going to be spending about $500 for a couple, right? So for instance, a date night without alcohol is going to be like $40 at a nice spot, right? So that's why, big budget's that, right? So I usually do date night only usually on Fridays, and then we, order out, stuff like that. But we spend, I'll show you how much I spend a month, but these are the different ranges. So you can get away with, you need at least $300 a month to feed yourself if you have two people. And that's if you're, cooking at home. Modest living, 500, big budget, like, you're doing your thing, you're spending around $1,000 a month, right? Which I was doing for a minute, but obviously if you get a house and you get into a routine of life, you start to, cook at home, and actually the food at home can be really, really great if you have a good cook, aka your woman, right? Each budget obviously has a trade-off. So if you're lean, you're usually doing a smaller city, you're cooking mostly public transit, but you're spending less money. If you're living comfortable, right, you have a good location, it's a good balance, right? Private health insurance, ride hailing, right? You're spending an extra $1,000 for more convenience. And then if you're obviously spending around $4,000 a month, close to $4,000 a month, you're going to be living a decently good life. You're not really going to be looking at prices that much, things like that. I mean, unless you have your girl doesn't have a filter, obviously, right? I'm not even including other stuff in here, but 4,000 is usually pretty good. I usually say 5 grand, including travel, right? So if you're taking like little trips once a month, stuff like that, right? So here's actually my new budget because I'm moving from Rio to a tier B city. I'm actually about to have a kid here, and I actually want to live somewhere a little bit more than in Rio, at least for a year, right, closer to her family and things like that. And so here's my Brazilian budget: $1,000 for rent. I have a I'm getting a 3 bedroom, 5 bath place with a view and everything, the whole shebangs. You know, one of the nicest condos in that city. My condo fee is only $175. Now, you need to be really clear on your condo fees. Like the condo fee, like for instance, I live in Rio right now. I'm spending $2,100 a month for a 3 bedroom, 2 bath place and $500 a month for a condo, right? So I'm spending like way more money in Rio. So you have to be very careful on your condo fees. Some of these condo fees can be like $500. Like I'm in one of the most expensive condo fees, right? And some of them you don't even get anything. Like I only get a parking spot. I don't even have a pool. I don't have like a gym. I don't have anything. It's just I'm paying $500 a month for the location I'm in because I'm in a really prime location. I put $100 down, but like for instance, I've had bills here in Rio, especially during the summer months, that were like $250. I was actually like surprised. I was like, oh crap, right? Because you actually subsidize stolen electricity, so you're paying for your AC peak, right? Because all the AC is on, and then you're also paying the other peak, you know, the subsidized electricity that people are stealing in the favelas to feed their air conditioning. So I put $100 down because right now I'm spending around $100, but realistically in the summer months, you're going to be probably paying closer to 150, 200, depending on how many rooms and how big your place is, right? Gas, 25 to 30 bucks, 35 bucks, usually not that much. That just feeds your hot water and your cooking. Health insurance for 2 people was $250. I mean, actually, this is including the baby now. Super cheap. So I expect to say spend $100 per adult, 50 bucks per kid if you want, you know, mid-range private insurance. You don't really have to pay for anything out of pocket copay. That includes dental and things like that. And then for transportation, I put 200. So this is like your Uber bikes, your trains, your regular Ubers. I think this number is going to fluctuate up or down depending on where you live. So like if you're living in a cheap place, you're going to probably need to transport everywhere because you're probably not in where the thick of things. So your transportation cost is going to get higher. And look, I experimented with low budget before in Rio, big budget in Rio, in between. And there are trade-offs. So when you do live in a cheaper place, you are going to pay more in transportation. And usually the savings don't really like, you might save $100, but now you're inconvenient, right? Because sometimes you're in a place that doesn't have great Uber coverage. So it's hard to get an Uber. It can be like 5-10 minutes to get an Uber, stuff like that. And also you're not by food. And so it's like always a mission to go get food. And so it could be inconvenient. So you need to weigh how much going cheaper is and make sure you're next to transportation, like a train, particularly. The bus, I don't think you should take the bus in Rio or Brazil in general. It's just like, I don't think it's worth it, and it can be really confusing. Just Uber or take the train, right? Cleaner, I put $50 if you do one good cleaning a month. So you have a cleaner crew come and they clean the bathrooms and the floors and the kitchen and all the shebang. This can be more. You can do it every 2 weeks or once a week, but I say $50 a cleaning, so it could be from 50 to 200 bucks, right, for cleaning. And then I spend about $300 a month at the supermarket. So I usually go to the supermarket, do a big haul. Actually, it's closer to 400 to 500, but we're also moving once again to a tier B city. So this should be going down to $300 because it's not as expensive as Rio. So I'm expecting to spend around 300. I think now I spend around 500 in Rio, but I'm expecting it to get cut significantly living in a different area. Now, this doesn't cover internet, local phones, beauty, sports, travel, or emergencies. I would add another $2 to $300 for this type of stuff. If you want to go to a soccer game, if you want to eat out, internet, emergencies, toiletries, things like that. Haircuts and stuff like that is really cheap. I think every month for my girls' nails and eyelashes and all that, I think we spend like $100 a month on that. So that's for reference if you have a partner, if you have a girl, which is amazing compared to anywhere else. And they're also really, really good quality. I'm sure it can be cheaper in this tier B city. I'm assuming we're probably going to spend like 50 to 60 bucks for the same quality, but once again, different It's not in Rio South Zone compared to that, right? So just to kind of break down the budgets for different buckets, this is what you're once again really looking at, right? Just kind of itemized out, right? Big budgets, you're spending this. Most of that's going to be because of the rent and eating out. Utilities are probably going to be the same, but it's really about like your transportation costs, your housing, and then most importantly, like where are you eating out, right? Like that's the big thing, right? Because if you live in a really nice area, you're gonna eat out at you're gonna go to the most expensive grocery store. You're gonna eat at the most expensive restaurants, right? It's just the game, right? So 5,000 guys, right? 5,000 is like really comfortable. Now you can spend more than $5,000. It's really easy, right? Especially if you're dating a lot and things like that. You can spend more than five. You can spend 6, 7, 8, especially if you're going on trips, doing adventures, things like that, renting cars. Like you can spend more, but I think 5,000 is like you're living a really good life, right? And I think if you really want to stretch it, you can get away with $1,500 a month, but you're not really living a good life. So I would say $2,500 to $3,000. You're living a decent life. Like you can get away with $3,000 in Brazil, anywhere in Brazil, right? I would always obviously budget in reais because there's a lot of fluctuations right now in the currency. I would hold some cash if in reais, just in case for picks and stuff like that. So if you have residency, getting a Brazilian bank account and just like keeping some cash there. So if you're spending 5,000 reais a month, just always keep $500, or $5,000 a month, keep $500 just sitting in a random Brazilian bank account, because you just never know, right? Like things happen and you don't want to get in a situation where Wise or any other of these like money transfers, like for that day, it doesn't send the same day, right? So just like always keep cash, guys. And then like test different neighborhoods, right? Test different cities, get a vibe before you sign a long-term lease. Rio by far is going to be the most competitive market to get a place. When I say they go so quick, like you got to go see the place and like propose for it the same day, because they're so competitive, because everyone wants to live in the South Zone. So you're competing with Brazilians, expats, and all alike. And you being a foreigner, you're kind of in a disadvantage because Brazilians will probably rather rent to another Brazilian just because of convenience and customs, right? Unless you're going to be willing to spend more money, or they don't really care, right? I just think it's harder as a gringo to rent in the South Zone because it's super competitive, and you're kind of disadvantaged because you're a foreigner and they don't. You're like, are you going to run off and not pay your rent? Right? Like that's always in the back of their mind, right? And so I recommend using Kentar Andar in Rio, okay? Because it's easy mode. You can get places. You don't need to put a deposit down. It is a little bit more expensive, but you're way more likely with Kentar Andar to get an apartment in Rio using that. All right. Now, once you get an apartment with Kentar Andar, when you put bills in your name, it's going to make it so much easier for you to get an apartment outside of Kentar Andar, because when you submit your proposal to, like, let's say realtors, if you're using a real estate agency or property management, they're, that's managing properties and stuff like that, they're going to ask to see if you have bills in your name. And if you can show a gas bill, I'm literally in the middle of it right now, guys. I'm like in the middle of closing on a place. Showing the gas bill that shows like, okay, you paid your bills. You're not just here temporarily. You're going to run off in the middle of the lease and creating an awkward situation for the landlord, right? Now, I do have friends that that own as well, and I consider that myself, but I'm in no rush to buy a place in Brazil. I plan on living in Brazil that's in some reform, at least 3 to 6 months a year for the rest of my life. My kid is going to be Brazilian. My woman is Brazilian. I'm, learning the language. I love it here. So I'm in no rush. And so if you're going to buy something, like, don't rush it, guys. Do not rush it. Like, you should at least spend years off and on in this country, in the city that you want to buy in before you buy. Do not buy. Even like right now, I'm planning on buying a place in Japan first before I even buy in Brazil. And I'm gonna, like, I've been to Japan twice, and I'm gonna go for at least 1 or 2 months of the year. We're gonna go next year and all this other stuff. Like, spend time in the area that you're gonna buy in before you buy it. Don't rush it. All right, super important. And that's it, guys. Once again, pick a short list of 3 neighborhoods. Go see the listings yourself, and always in person. Like, go in there, smell it. meet the portero, see the facilities, the elevators. Some of the elevators can be so old, guys. So make sure you have modern elevators if that's important to you, right? Run the budget with the hey ice. Always do 4.5. Okay, if my rent, if the hey out goes to 4.5 hey ice per dollar, am I cool with paying that rent? Right? All the way up to 6. And so that's going to give you your range of your rent. Like for instance, my rent has went up 20% since I've been here because the hey ice it got stronger. So when you do pick your place, run your budget with the most extreme. 4.5 is pretty extreme. If it goes anything stronger than that, that's just like, bad luck. But it can go to 4.5, which is pretty strong. And then 6 and be like, can I absorb that money if it's going to make me sweat? And then once again, always have a buffer, right? Always have a buffer. I recommend personally, regardless of your budget, is to keep 5,000 hey ice. Not 5,000 hey ice. I keep saying ice. 5,000 US dollars of currency worth of Brazilian hey ice in your Brazilian banks, just for like emergency, guys. Because once again, you never know what situations you'll be in or when you'll need that money quickly. Usually, whatever, right? Like I'm in a situation now where like I kind of last minute decided to move, and so I'm like, all right, I got to come up with $5,000 for a deposit. And moving $5,000 internationally can be a pain in the butt because it can get frozen. It's not a lot of money to us, but if you don't have a history of sending $5,000 to a country, like it's a risk that it could be flagged, right? So you just want to like slowly accumulate this cash in Brazil so that when you need it, you can use it, right? And you can put it in CDBs and all these other different things, right? Short-term stuff, and earn interest on it while it's sitting there, but you should just always keep a buffer, guys. So if you find this valuable, let me know. Let me know what questions you guys have about cost of living, insurance, whatever you guys want to know, and I'm more than happy to help you. Hopefully this was super valuable for you. Peace.